So this is going to be an after-action report on the Battle of Chotusitz, which I played face-to-face very recently from Battles from the Age of Reason from Clash of Arms. As you know, I've been playing a lot of this system end of last year, beginning of this year, and it was a great time playing the Battle of Chotusitz with an opponent. This is from the Battle of Malvitz and Chotusitz box that was published in 2017, I believe, by Clash of Arms. And I was the Austrians facing off against the Prussians. And this was sort of the next major battle after Malvitz, where Frederick of Prussia demonstrated his battlefield acumen. So we see here in this opening shot the armies squared up for battle. We played the scenario that was basically the battle scenario. No pre-battle maneuver. The armies are deployed. What you're not seeing in this picture is sort of upper center is the approach route of Frederick's reinforcements. So Frederick commands the bulk of the army, and they come onto the map sort of in a hidden formation because they're behind a hill that the Austrians can't see. And so as the Austrians advance, there's a chance for them to spot the oncoming forces of Frederick. So what starts as a very outnumbered situation in favor of the Austrians quickly turns otherwise. These are the battle lines, as you see here, with the town of Chotusitz and the Prussians deployed kind of just to the left of it, the Austrians in two cavalry wings on the flanks with a strong infantry center, and I say strong numerically, not necessarily strong troop quality, as I was about to discover. The opening engagements, I decided that the Austrian advantage with cavalry, I wanted to rush them up and see if I could throw some chaos into the ranks of the Prussian left flank. The Prussian cavalry there is in kind of march column coming across through the town or across this swamp, and they have to deploy quickly to stop the Austrian advance. So I tried to get my cavalry in position to charge. The Austrian cavalry outranges the Prussian cavalry in charge range in this scenario, and most of my success would come from those cavalry attacks that the Austrians were able to put down. This is a picture of the Austrian left. Again, we've got three cavalry commands there with some skirmishers. Those are the pieces with the red tops and blue bottoms. The Prussian right was cavalry as well, but it was a much thinner line, and with a sort of three echelon formation, I decided to move up. I really wanted to sort of win the flanks early as I moved against the town of Chotusitz. And as you can see here, that is what I did. Unfortunately, I was unable, just with the way the activations worked out, I was unable to charge the disorganized Prussian left, and the Prussian cavalry was able to form a line, as you see there, to defend against the Austrians. I did a really good job early in the game as the Austrians moving the Austrian infantry together with their supporting artillery. We were moving in formation. My thinking was, while I outnumber the Prussians, I want to get in there and try and cause some damage and disorganization before Frederick's column approached. Unfortunately, the way it worked, it wasn't to be, as you will see. Here is the results of the initial cavalry skirmish on the right side. It was routing on both sides. The Prussians took the worst of it, routing into the swamp, and those units would basically be out of the battle until the very end. And just in terms of getting them unrouted and then the amount of movement they would need to turn around through the swamps and reform into march column, being out of command for the most part, the Austrians got the better of that initial exchange, but most of the units that routed were going to be out of the battle for a while, and that is characteristic of this system. Your cavalry basically get one shot, and if it doesn't go well, you're not going to get them back for a while. Here is the Austrian infantry advance, as you can see, nice and orderly, quite neat, and the Prussians moving somewhat to meet them, and further back you can see the cavalry lining up. Here is the battlefield after the first hour or so. The Austrians getting ready to open fire on the Prussians, whom they outnumber. You can see I have a command out there on the left, to the left along the road in the Austrian center, just to kind of prevent Frederick's oncoming forces, who you can see starting to deploy there, from taking the Austrians in the flank. It was a sound strategy, I feel, but I was to learn quickly that the Prussian infantry vastly outclasses the Austrian infantry. Here's the left flank as the Austrians get ready to cavalry charge. I tried to spread the line of Prussian cavalry there on their right, sort of along the shore of that lake. and succeeded in doing that pretty well. Here on the right side, with where the artillery is, the Prussian artillery is the vanguard of Frederick's oncoming forces. Here is the initial attacks in the center as the battle really started officially. I was unable to push the Prussian infantry back against the town. In fact, the Prussians marched out to meet me, and we exchanged some volleys of fire. You can see some disorder markers there. You can see some shaken in the Austrian line. It started to get a little ragged as the Prussian musket fire pushed the Austrians kind of to the limit. But we do have some reserves back there. My goal was to have some reserves because that front line was not going to stand very long, and I wanted to do some losses and then fill in those gaps with an Austrian reserve. Here out on the left, we did our first cavalry charge. I kind of had to do it in stages because of the way that the line was extended all across that left flank of mine. And so what I was trying to do is get positioned to where I could cavalry charge and roll up the Prussian cavalry. Unfortunately, the charge was we had an error with the command there, and the Prussians were able to kind of take a bit of a tactical advantage and drive away and rout a bunch of that very left edge Austrian cavalry. Here is the battle in sort of the second hour down the line of infantry. As you can see, the Austrians they've lost cohesion. They're taking a hammering across all those commands, especially on the left there, where a bunch of units routed. I'm trying to fill in the gaps as best I can with some of those second echelons, but just the Prussians are just so tough, the infantry, and the Austrian musketry is terrible, so terrible. I was rolling, for every one hit that I would get, the Prussians would get 4, it felt like, and it was just going quite badly, and I realized pretty early on that engaging the Prussians in the center was a bad idea, and it was probably going to lose me the fight. Over here, we managed to get the Austrian cavalry back into condition, and then this is where we charged and put the hurt on the Prussian right. As you see, we've routed some units there, heading back towards the lake, and we still have some fresh right there in the center. We have those 3 units that are kind of facing in an elbow. We've got some cavalry still ready to charge, while the cavalry down on the left there are trying to roll up the flank. We had really great success with Austrian cavalry in this particular battle. Here's a look at Frederick's forces as they've moved in to engage, just shattering the Austrian sort of force that I sent up that road, and then some cavalry that became disordered. The Prussians trying to hold back, what was going to be an imminent charge. You can see actually up there, one of the independent commands of the Austrians in the upper right managed to get a cavalry charge and pursuit through the line and started to wreak havoc back there, but it was pretty short-lived as some Prussian grenadiers came up. Here is the situation on the Prussian right, Austrian left. The Austrian cavalry reformed, outnumbering and disorganizing the formation there. That was one of the few bright spots for the Austrians. Here is into the second or third hour of the battle. We've got Austrians routing all across the line against the Prussians, who just are a slow steamroller and just throwing so many musket balls towards them. Cavalry battle continues. You see there that the Austrians have made some pursuit breakthroughs and have thrown the Prussian right into disarray. It was not pretty over there. Over on the right side of the picture, you can see Frederick's infantry have moved up to kind of gain control of the situation and prevent the rest of the Austrian cavalry from making a huge breakthrough. This is the right side. This is after some of those units have regrouped. The Austrians and the Prussians kind of fought to a stalemate there, and they're both trying to get their units back into some sort of organization. Unfortunately, the way the activations went, the Austrians could just never find an advantage there to really drive home the dagger and have their cavalry sweep into the infantry flank. It was one of the major failings I had in this battle, was the inability to capitalize on that. And part of that was due to the activation rolls, and part of that was due to the fact that I was trying to make the most of what infantry I had to get their shots in first before they were routed or disordered. And as you see, the Austrian line now extremely messed up, disordered, shaken. The Prussians moved into close combat. You can see an Austrian leader there who was killed. At one point, due to Prussian advancing gunfire, the Austrians finally got their artillery deployed. One of the other failures I had in this battle was not able to get the Austrian artillery in a position to do any good. I mean, they weren't big guns anyway, but it wasn't until the end of the battle they took a few pot shots and they didn't really have much effect. Here's the left-hand side of the Austrian infantry block with Prussians swarming them. Lots of disordered and shaken units there. The one bright spot in the center of this image was we did manage to kill a Prussian wing commander in a close assault that the Prussians instigated and rolled doubly badly 2 times in a row, and it just went against them. And that kept the Austrians in the game for a little bit because he was worth 10 casualty points. But as you see, the Austrians are just completely disorganized in the face of that advance. And here you see more Prussians pouring in to kind of flank. Prussians got a lot of flanking attacks, and I was trying to plug the holes, but it was not great. And there's a forward line of Austrians there who got into real trouble because they were unable to withdraw. Here on the left, you see the Austrians forming up their cavalry again, but by this time, Frederick's grenadiers and infantry had moved in, and volley fire against cavalry is absolutely murderous because they get a multiplier because they're shooting at horses. Here is sort of the remnants of the Prussian cavalry routing off the map. I'm just going to show you some of the success the Austrians had there. Here's that commander who managed to get a pursuit breakthrough, fully surrounded by Prussian infantry battalions, and he would go down under a hail of gunfire. Here's a look at the loss charts. This is the Austrian loss chart. Over on the right there, the army loss record is the total losses for the army. You can see it's almost entirely filled in, and the middle column there is the Austrian infantry, so you can see how badly they took it on the chin. The right column and the left column there are cavalry. Again, I had most of the cavalry battles went in my favor, but even still, lots of casualties there, especially after the infantry moved in. It was a bloodbath. I did not win, in case you were wondering. It was a Prussian victory, and we called it. The battle ends at noon, and we called it in the 11 a.m. hour because there was really no hope at that point for the Austrians to claw it back. Here's a look at the Prussian chart. You can see how feeble the Austrian infantry was. That center column there is the Prussian infantry lines, and only a few units with major casualties to speak of, a lot of them with none. On the other hand, Prussian cavalry really took a beating thanks to those cavalry charges. Just not enough, as the army loss record there shows, and so it was a Prussian victory. And here's just one final look at the battle. The Prussians really still cohesive for the most part. The Austrians in disarray, and that was the end of the Battle of Chotusitz. It was a great time. I think if I played this scenario again, I would play the approach to battle. It allows for a little bit more maneuver. It's a much longer game. I think it adds 2 hours to the game, which is 6 turns. But it does allow the Austrians to set up how they would like. And possibly play more to their strengths with having their cavalry maybe in a more forward position to threaten the Prussians more quickly in battle. I think the main mistake I made was having the Austrians try and advance while the situation was outnumbered. I think knowing that, I may not have tried to push my luck as much as they did and what they did historically, which is marching to the town, but I didn't even make it as far as the Austrians made it historically before I ran into the Prussian wall. Their musketry is no joke. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this look at Battles from the Age of Reason. This is one of my favorite systems that I have played from a hex and counter tactical perspective, and I at some point this year will be playing the Battle of Monmouth, which is American Revolution, different scale, some idiosyncrasies to that setting that I'm eager to explore. And let me know what you think if you've tried Bar yet based on these videos. I know some people have said that they were going to break out their rulebook and try and tackle the game system, so I'm curious to see how that's going.